Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Francesco, thank you, as usual, for organizing this conference in places. I'm Neapolitan, but I always come to discover places of my city when Francesco invites me for speaking these conferences. Francesco, I thank you very much because you have told me that I am an expert on everything. Not just everything, but many things. Come on. Okay, so let me start very quickly. I know that we are in perfect timing. I think if Mr. Ceccarelli will ask to postpone the lunch by 5 o'clock this afternoon, I think we should be reasonably, otherwise the pasta gets cold and we like the Neapolitan pasta, so please. Sorry? Exactly. Okay, so let me start quickly. Who framed Roger Rabbit? Who is Roger Rabbit? In my mind, Roger Rabbit is the organization of petroleum-producing nations, so the OPEC, who was able to put them in a corner. And what is happening today? What are they doing in order to get out of this corner? The first thing they are doing was the OPEC deal that they reached on 28th of September, where they just announced that they were going to reduce their daily oil production from 33.6, if I'm not wrong, to 32.5. So just a small reduction and just an announcement. The reduction will exempt Iran, Nigeria, and Libya for obvious reason. Nigeria is in a terrible crisis. Iran is just coming out of the sanction, and Libya, for time being, is not producing too much with ISIS managing part of the areas and controlling part of the areas of oil production. Russia will back the deal. So it has been an announcement that must be then finalized, most probably in November. But just by making this announcement, they were able to raise, in these days, quite stably the price of oil above $50. So roughly 5%, more than what it was before. Is this really the solution for them? Is this relieving them in this moment? We will see afterwards. What happened before, and which was the main reason of the oil price drop that we have seen, that has touched $27 per barrel, the WTI, in end of January 2016, so a price which is about 1/4 of what it was before the crisis and the drop of the price of oil. Who did change really this market was US, and mainly the new technology of fracking. The reason why this price of oil went down is because there was a new way of producing oil, and US, from being an importer of oil, has become a potential net exporter. I say potential because in US crude oil can be exported only thanks to special exemptions, but for the time being, US production has influenced enormously the price of oil. What was happening is that in November 2014, when it was evident that the abundance of oil on the market was going to put pressure on prices, OPEC said, we don't care, we continue our production level. Also because they thought, and they were not wrong, that if they, while before they were the only one in the world able to manage the volume of production, mainly Saudi were the ones who were able to manage this. So by reducing the volume of production, they were sustaining or even increasing the prices. They have understood clearly that this is no more the case, because the shale oil production was able to supplement the reduction of oil production by OPEC. So they said, we will destroy the frackers, and we will do to frackers what they are doing to the rocks. It's not a very kind and polite statement, but is what the Saudis were thinking to this, and they thought that they were going to be crushed. The reaction of the shale oil producers, you know that they are very tough people. They are coming from North Dakota, from Texas, so they are not easy to be made afraid, was OPEC is a toothless tiger. And I think partly they are right. What was happening with the overproduction of oil is that the oil price went, as I said, down to $27 per barrel on WTI, and this was hitting very hard the producing nations. Not only the OPEC producing nations, we see what has happened in Russia, the crisis of Russia, but what is really impressive is the impact on Saudi Arabia. We all used to think to Saudi Arabia to a country with endless financial resources, but this is not true. Saudi Arabia needs, in order to break even the budget, a price of oil which is in the region of $90 to $110. So it means that every barrel of oil they were selling at a lower price was eroding their financial resources. And in fact, we have seen that in the last months, they have decided even to reduce the level of salaries of the public employees of about 20%, including the ministers. This is something that Italy should think about. And they have also doubled the price of gasoline, even if for us would be a dream to pay the gasoline as the Saudis pay, but they are really impressed by this increase of prices. What has happened to US now? The Saudis, the OPEC was saying, we will do to the frackers what they are doing to the rocks. Have a look to what was happening. US had a peak production, which was in April 15, of 9.6 million barrels per day. They were very close to Saudi Arabia, so they were very close to being the major oil producers in the world. It was about 50-50, very close to 4.8 million was shale oil, and the other was traditional oil. What has happened in the following years, with the price of oil going so down and going to $40 beside the last days, is that they have reduced the production, but not dramatically. The shale oil producers, which were going to be destroyed, have not been destroyed because they have reduced their production only by 15%, while the traditional oil producers went down by 8%. So it means that US production has been reduced of about 12% to 8.5 million barrels per day. The reaction of US and of US producer has been very tough, very strong. How they were able to do? Because the efficiency of oil production in US, especially by the frackers, has increased dramatically. The ability of having lower costs of supply and much more efficient technology has allowed them to go from a break-even price which before the crisis was considered in the region of $80, $70 to break-even prices which are not comparable because the large areas of production, like the Permian Basin, for example, is able to produce even at $30, maybe slightly less, we don't know, but at a really very, very low break-even price. So the action of the OPEC has not been successful. And on the contrary, who is the real winner of the meeting of September of OPEC? I don't know if it is OPEC. I think are the producers of shale oil, because with the oil moving from $40 to $50, companies like Chevron, for example, are able to drill from 1,300 to 4,000 new wells at profitable levels. So it means that they were not only able to survive, but they are now in a position that maybe is even stronger than it was before the crisis, because they have got more and more capacity of producing at competitive levels. With the US, the oil at $50, and here I'm using an article made by the journalist Sisi Bellomo of Sole 24 Ore. It would be very nice if we have some of these journalists here. I don't know. Okay, it would be very interesting, but the article of Sisi Bellomo says that there was an increase of about 40% of the wells of shale oil from May to today. So, an increase of 40%. They are drilling new wells, and it seems they have raised about $30 billion new capital for financing this production only in this period of the year. That is more than what they raised in 2015. Let me go quickly. Let me move quickly from oil to energy. The reason why is because, of course, the transport of oil and in general energy is really one of the major or the most important driver of the shipping market. Here we are speaking of shipping, and so it's not only important to have a look to the commodities, but also to how the world of energy will develop in the future. What will be the development of the use of primary energy. Primary energy does not mean only energy production or power production, but means also what we use for our cars, for our transportation. We will see that by 2035, so 20 years from now, we will see that fossil fuels will continue to be the primary source of energy, about 80%. With definitely a reduction of the use of coal, an increase of the use of natural gas, which will grow above coal and will get a share of the primary energy production of 26%, so 2% more than today. With oil, which will remain a very important source with 29%, even with a slight reduction, not in absolute terms, of course, but in terms of percentage, and with the real winners of this game, that is renewables, that are moving from 6%, from 3% of today of production to about 9%, which is an enormous increase. It's an increase of about 6% per year because we will have also an increase of need of use of power. So renewables are the real winners, and we will have a closer look to renewables. But just to close with oil, what will happen with oil? Oil will increase of about 20 million barrels per day, the use of oil, compared to 96 million barrels per day of these days. Who is going to ask for more oil? Less in OECD, more in the developing nations, mainly China, India, and other Asian nations, also Middle East. Who is going to be the winner of the supply will be partly OPEC, the yellow, but will be a lot US. Brazil, if the price will allow for drilling in ultra-deep water, 7,000 meters is the drilling depth to which you have to drill for get oil from Brazil. But this will be the new scenario of the producers and of the users. Even nuclear power production will continue to grow, not in developed countries where the job is decommissioning, but in areas like China and India. The renewable forecast has always been wrong. We have been always considering that renewable was something that was supporting the production, but not really being a primary source of production. This has proven to be wrong. We see that the forecast of 2011 for the production of power, of energy, the use of energy from renewable, has been mistaken by 35% compared to what we are projecting these days, 2016. Why? Because, again, like the frackers have learned how to improve their efficiency, the producers of renewable energy have improved dramatically their capability of producing at competitive prices. Just to give you a figure, in 2005, the cost of a kilowatt of photovoltaic was in the region of $4.5. Today, the cost of installing a kilowatt is 0.6. So from 4.5 to 0.6 in 10 years. The feeling is that by 2030, the cost will be 20 cents. So it is not only increasing the capability of doing this, but is dramatically reducing the cost of production. This is the reason why photovoltaic, but also wind production of energy will grow dramatically and will continue to grow. What will be the real challenge here, thanks to or due to the renewable entrance in the market so strongly, is the fact that the balance between demand and supply of power will become much more difficult because, of course, the renewable energy is an intermittent energy, and this will put a very strong strain on grids and on all the system, because we will need new design for grids which will be able to accommodate peaks and troughs of energy production, but also the capability of storing energy, because this will be the real challenge. If we will be able to store in a competitive manner, we will win really the possibility of using more and more renewable energy. To do that, we will need what will be are named smart grids, which need a complete system of control, softwares who are managing these grids that will be used by the central authorities of the energy of the various governments, and also a communication system that will keep continuously informed the central agency of the performance of the grid, including the transformers. The real challenge, as we say, is the capability of storing. The new generation of batteries, I'm going very quickly, but I know that we are under pressure for timing, Mr. Chairman, so I'm trying to be as fast as possible. No, but you will not be obliged because I'm closing. The quality, the development of batteries is already underway, and we know that we need light batteries for everything, thanks to electrical cars. The forecast is that in 3 years' time, we will have batteries with the same weight. We will have 3 times the capacity of the batteries today. How this will happen? By the development of technology. I will give you just one example, the graphene. Graphene is a material, I don't know who of you is familiar with this, but it's a very special material. It's a 2-dimension carbon material. What does it mean, 2-dimension? That the depth of this layer is 1 atom. So is a layer of 1 atom of carbon that has a strength that is about 200 times more than steel, and there's unbelievable capabilities of storing energy, because it has an unbelievable capacity of transmitting, so has no limited resistance in transmission. But by using this type of material, for example, in panels producing energy, they are already producing, as prototype panels, who are producing energy from the raindrops. So no more energy from sun, but also energy from raindrops. So this is just an example, and I am not willing to go in depth into this also because I don't understand anything about this material. But the reason why I'm mentioning is because we are living in a period in which we will see a development in storage, for example, or in transmission of power that will be similar to the revolution we have seen on the computers in the last decades. This will be the new challenge. It's not very good news for ship owners, because the more renewable we are able to produce and to transport, the less coal and oil will be transported. So we have to think to something slightly different. I brought you also an example of a way of storing energy that is very close to this place, because it's a company based in Salerno that is thinking to store energy by solar concentration into sand. They have already put a plant in service, and it is a very smart system, but it has a consumption of soil that is very high, because they need about 2 hectares to install 1 megawatt of power. But it was just to tell you that the examples are growing continuously. So, I'm closing, Mr. Chairman, so you don't need to stop me. What is going to happen in the future? What we know is that the certainty is that energy is a lot, is sufficient. We have a lot of energy around, not only from fossil fuels, but also from other sources. The challenge is how to use this energy in a competitive manner. The real challenge for the oil producers will be what will happen with shale. And here I think there is some idea about what will make shale less competitive, beside the environmental problems that are existing. But maybe some changes in the finance will happen. And I'm sure that somebody will come to tell you that this is going maybe to hit hard also shale production. Mr. Chairman, I have closed. Thank you to everybody for your attention. I hope it was not too boring. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From now on, I intend to exercise my rights of chairman in a very effective way, but I will start by thanking Mr. Salerno and congratulating him for the recent acquisition of an English company, Edith. Now, I live in London, and as we poor emigrants to England, these are the news that we like to read in the morning on the Financial Times. So you have my appreciation, my respect, and my congratulations. Mr. Salerno, you mentioned and you quoted one leading journalist, something she said, and you also hinted that it would be lovely if she were here. Now, we are in a chapel. After all, miracles happen sometimes. So you mentioned Sissi Bellomo, who happened to be sitting here, and you see, the organization has been once again perfect, because her presence has been kept discreet, if not secret, to most people. So Sissi is discreetly sitting at the back.
She has materialized.
Would you like, please, to comment on what Mr. Salerno was saying about one of your previous statements?
If I'm able to make it work, does it work? Okay. Comment what? We are very long in our schedule, and I want to be very concise, and he talked about so many things. I would like to point out just one element in his presentation and in the scenario that I see developing in the world of oil. Roger Rabbit, yes, for now probably shale gas and shale oil is winning the battle, the supposed battle with OPEC. I guess we should keep in mind that there are many other things in the scene. One of them is the Federal Reserve's politics and orientation in monetary action. I guess if we see a monetary squeeze in the next years, probably shale oil in the States will have more problems than they have now, because they have easy money and a very, very accommodative perspective from investors looking for yields in a world where we don't have. And so what the OPEC couldn't do, could do the Fed, maybe. It's just a suggestion. I don't want to have the solution to offer you. I suggest you to watch for the Fed as well.